finally happened. Jimmy Butler has been traded away from the Miami Heat. He is going to the Golden State Warriors. And of course, it happened while we were live on the Heat Report watching Heat Sixers. We knew there was a possibility that a trade could happen at any moment. And I was hoping it wasn't going to happen during the game and we could just have a normal game watch and then react afterwards. But we had to take this trade precedent, and this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we will break down the trade details, my instant reaction, my thoughts, because this is a massive 5-team deal that we will get into and talk about what could potentially be next for the Miami Heat as well. But make sure you do hit that sub button. All right, this is the trade details up to the moment that we know, because, and actually as we're filming this, the Toronto portion is not completed yet. So there is a chance that the Toronto Raptors, if you're watching this, don't actually get Kyle Anderson. So we don't know that just yet. But the main return for Miami right now is Andrew Wiggins, PJ Tucker, a protected 2025 first-round pick from the Golden State Warriors. And I want to talk about the Warriors pick real quick, and then we'll talk more about Jimmy Butler, because that pick is as good as a return as I could have asked for from the Warriors. I was unsure if Miami was going to be able to get a first-round pick from Butler due to how chaotic he has made this situation down in Miami. But it's a 2025 top 10 protected. If the Warriors happen to finish inside the top 10 and they're in the top 10 after the lottery, that pick will get pushed back 1 year, 2026 top 10 protected. And God forbid that the Golden State Warriors are in the top 10 of the NBA draft for 2 straight seasons in 25 and 26, it becomes an unprotected first-round pick in 2027. I will project that this will convey, and Miami will be picking in the 2025 draft thanks to Golden State. But there is a chance this gets pushed down the line, and God forbid if they're in the top 10 for 2 straight years, well, if it's unprotected in 2027, it will probably be a very high pick as well. So to me, this is going to be a really good pick for Miami as we go through the next 2 to 3 seasons for the Miami Heat. But time to reel it back in and talk about Jimmy. I hate to say I'm that guy, but I am. Like, listen, if you watched our content over the last 5 or 6 weeks, ever since it was reported that Jimmy Butler prefers a trade away from the Miami Heat, and then he officially requested a trade just after the 2025 season, I have always said the most likely destination and the best fit, in my opinion, was the Golden State Warriors. You can roll the tape. I have always said that Golden State made the most sense for me in terms of Jimmy, because I think the Warriors would be the most desperate, trying to add a co-star next to Steph Curry as his age continues to climb up there and their window to contend continues to close and continues to close. And they had the money to give Butler if he wanted to extend there. And he did, by the way. A 2-year, $121 million extension was announced right after the trade by Shams Charania. But I always linked Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski to Miami. Evidently not the case, and it is Andrew Wiggins coming back to the Heat. Now, I do like this, and over the past 3 or 4 days, I've talked about how I actually would love to have Andrew Wiggins in Miami. He's having one of his best seasons over the past 2 or 3 years, averaging an efficient 17.4 points per game. And I think the fit that he will provide you in your future lineup is very, very positive. When you think the future of the Miami Heat, what are you thinking of right now? You are thinking of Bam Adebayo. You are thinking of Kel'el Ware. You are thinking of Tyler Hero. What does this group and lineup desperately need? A 3-and-D wing. Now, Jimmy Butler obviously is not a 3-and-D wing, but he's as good as a 3 as you could have for the Miami Heat. Evidently didn't want to be here, which is why he is traded and didn't get paid in his issue with the front office. But Wiggins shooting 38% from 3 this year. He's athletic. He can finish on top of you. Pause. He can finish amongst the crowd with big men competing. He can also be a rangy, switchy defender. I am a very big fan of Andrew Wiggins joining the starting lineup of the Miami Heat. I know a lot of people wanted to get Kevin Durant. That was always a pipe dream. I'm just happy they moved off Butler. He is not coming back to this locker room, not messing things up for this young core of Hero, Bam, Ware, Jovic, Jaquez, and more. And the Heat get a perfect 3 to start with this front court and back court needing to get connected. And we're going to continue the talk about the reaction, and we'll talk also about what could be next for the Miami Heat before the trade deadline, because we do have some time. But we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform. Appreciate them for sponsoring the Heat Report. And I know we're a basketball program, but we do have a football game on Sunday, the last one of the season. Hit that button to join us here on Prize Picks, because they're giving away a free pick for the big game. More than Patrick Mahomes, half a passing yard. Pair that up with another stat projection, you can win real money. Also, check out the promos tab to get any of their Super Sweat Millie big game lineups. If that lineup you tally goes 3 for 3, you can split up to $1 million in promo funds. I had an entry for the Heat-Sixers game tonight. Unclear if I ended up winning because we're filming this at halftime when the Heat are up 62-57. Fun fact about this video. But make sure you join me and the millions of others on Prize Picks. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app, use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, let's get back to talking about this trade for Miami and what this means and what could be next for the Miami Heat. Because to me, there clearly has to be another move being made. Now, I could have thought that this trade was it for Miami. You could have told me it was it, and I would have been fine with it. Because the two things that I've needed Miami to do the most before the deadline, we've been very open about this. Get Jimmy Butler off of the roster, acquire some expiring contracts or a good, decent piece like Andrew Wiggins, who is having a good season for the Warriors and hopefully will continue it for the Miami Heat, but also get a true point guard so Hero can go back to be an off-ball too, because as good as Hero has been, and he's an all-star this season, they need to get the ball out of his hands and allow him to play more off-ball. Well, I thought they were getting that with Dennis Schroder, who's averaging 10.8 points per game this season, was really good in Brooklyn, not as good in Golden State. I don't think the fit was as good as they hoped it was going to be, which is why he's a part of this trade. And he's not coming to Miami. He's getting rerouted to Utah, which is also an underrated part of this we didn't really talk about. P.J. Tucker's back on Miami. He's an expiring, I believe, $12 million contract. I'm going to double-check that right now. I cannot believe they actually brought P.J. Tucker back, but he is an expiring like Miami wanted. He has a history here. It is an expiring $11.5 million for Miami this season. My question is, though, is he ever going to play? Because he does the same thing as Haywood Highsmith, but Haywood's probably better at this point in their career. You also got Jaquez and Jovic above him right now. We'll see if they keep P.J. Tucker through the deadline. I would probably assume that they do. But here's an intriguing part on this trade, by the way. After moving off of Jimmy and getting only at this point Jimmy Butler and Josh Richardson off the roster, Andrew Wiggins and P.J. Tucker back, they no longer are in the luxury tax, which means they eliminate a $23.8 million tax penalty, save Mickey money, of course, but they also create an $11 million trade exception, which is fascinating because, well, that means they could make a trade where they acquire $11 million without really having to send anybody out. I believe that's how it works. I always get confused on the NBA rules. I'll look more into that and have you updated probably tomorrow. But I am a big fan of having that $11 million exception for Miami. You wonder what is next, and I'll speculate what could be next before the deadline tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. But what was your one reaction to the trade? Let me know. When you saw Shams finally break the news of Jimmy Butler heading to the Golden State Warriors, what was your one-word reaction? Drop it down in the comments section. All right, we round out the show. As I was kind of alluding to before I went on my little tangent, it's Curious to see if the Heat go out and acquire a guard. I've mentioned how much they need a guard. I'd love to sign or trade for a guard. I've said for the longest time that I think Lonzo Ball would be a good fit in Miami. And if you actually take it back just 4 days and you click on my perfect NBA trade deadline video for the Miami Heat, the first thing was to trade Jimmy Butler, and it included Andrew Wiggins coming to Miami. And then in a separate deal, I traded Terry Rozier and second-round picks to the Bulls to get Lonzo Ball. Because I thought Lonzo, Hero, Wiggins, Ware, Bam, starting five, that moves me. You still would have Duncan, Highsmith, Jovic, Jaquez coming off the bench. I wouldn't say it's a lineup that wins multiple playoff series, but they can get frisky. I think they could absolutely get frisky if you made a separate deal for Lonzo. But make sure you stay subscribed because we still will be going live tomorrow for the NBA trade deadline. We'll talk all things Miami Heat, react to what's going around the league, see if Miami makes another trade because they absolutely should. They need to add a guard to this team. Need. So hit that sub button because we will have you covered on all things Miami Heat.